Today we're going to talk about PowerPoint how-tos. Not how to technically create a PowerPoint. There's loads of videos on YouTube about that if you don't already know how to use it. It's how to create an effective, attractive PowerPoint. Those are much harder to find. What you want to do is load as much text as possible onto each slide because those slides cost you money. No, that's absolutely not true. The slides are free. You can put on as many slides as you want. In fact, it's better to have more slides with less on them than fewer slides with a lot on. Just take a look at this slide. Do you even want to read that? That's really important information on there, but I don't know about you, I feel overwhelmed by that text and I just don't want to read all of that. And if I was sitting in the audience and a little bit further back, I probably wouldn't be able to read all of that. And somebody who would create that kind of slide is probably going to sit there and read each slide sentence out loud, word for word, maybe looking at me, maybe looking at the screen. No, that is not a good PowerPoint. I took all of those ideas and put them into a good slide. There you go. No, you want to keep it simple. The rule is 6 by 6. Now there are occasions where you're going to break the rule, but this is the rule of thumb. You want no more than 6 lines, and you want no more than 6 words on each line. You use very limited punctuation. This is not an essay. Notice there are no periods at the end of those bullet points. And white space is good. See all of this empty space here? That's actually a good thing. It gives you a very clean, crisp looking slide that doesn't feel overwhelming. And yeah, a lot of the information on the first slide I'm giving you verbally, but that's the point of PowerPoint. You're not putting every single word you're going to speak on the slide. You're putting the key words. For one thing, if it's on the slide, the audience is going to be reading it. And when they're reading the slide, they are not listening to you. Another point, if you just wanted to create a PowerPoint that had all the information on it, you could do that and email someone the PowerPoint. The point of a public speech event is that you are telling them the information. They're getting something from you that is not on the PowerPoint. And the PowerPoint is just functioning almost like an outline. It's a guideline. Death by PowerPoint. Now take a look at that slide. Does anyone want to read that? First of all, there's too many bullet points on here. This is way too much information. There's too many words on the slide. People aren't listening when they're reading the slide, and they're frankly not listening to you when you're reading the slide to them either, because that's boring. You want to use the design to communicate, but if you put too many fonts, if you use hard to read fonts, too much bold, too much underline, it becomes distracting rather than helpful. Always spell check. I have seen multiple presentations, particularly by students, where they have misspelled a word. And you also need to know which words. What I mean by that is what I refer to as the from-form error. You type form, you meant from. Spell check isn't going to catch that because form is a word. So you need to have someone go through, if it's not you, and it's always good to have a second pair of eyes, and make sure that there aren't any mistakes that spell check wasn't able to catch. Always face your audience. Do not face the slide. The slide is not paying any attention to you. If you have got so much text on there that you have to make the font small, you have too much text. Remove it, cut down, cut it into more than one slide. You want people to be able to see it even in the back row. So first let's talk about design. You want contrasting colors because you want it to be attractive and easy to read. The most common is light text with a dark back, but there are exceptions to that. In fact, look at my PowerPoint, that's a dark text on a light back. One of the challenges with a light text on a dark back is if you're planning on printing out your slides. Most of the time we're not doing that, but there may be occasions when you are. If so, then you definitely don't want to use light on dark because all of that black ink is very expensive, and you get one of those wet pieces of paper because it used so much ink. So just keep in mind what you're going to be doing with the slide afterwards. Your most important concern is readability. That's your number one factor. Can the audience read it and understand it? Once it's readable, then you worry about aesthetics, and aesthetics are important. You want it to look attractive. You want it to look inviting. You want people to want to read it, and you want to give them a good impression of you, a good feeling about you. Never at the cost of readability. And then design. And what I mean by the difference between aesthetic and design is that taking it up a notch, taking it from an A to an A+, is can you make the design match the content? So if you're talking about elementary school education, then maybe you use primary colors that you would use in an elementary school. If you're talking about party planning, then maybe you use something that's a little more elegant. If you're presenting something from a particular company, you use the company colors in the PowerPoint. So that design is taking it up to the next level, but never ever at the expense of readability. Avoid distracting transitions and animations. Didn't that look really cool what I did? Didn't it take too much time and didn't it distract you? It didn't have anything to do with the content. It's fun to play around with those things, and I always tell people the very first PowerPoint you ever make, put in every single one of those and get it out of your system, and then don't use them again unless you have a compelling reason. Bells and whistles just distract the audience. Use good quality images that match your message. No matter how great the image is, if it doesn't look good when it's projected, and you need to try it projected because some things will look good on the screen and then will not look good projected. If it's not, doesn't look good, then don't use it. Here's a good example. Love this, perfect for this talk. For my presentation today, I'll be reading the PowerPoint slides word for word. But look at how it is not crisp and clear. Everything's a little bit muddy here. As much as I like this, this would not be something I would use in a PowerPoint. Except for now, when I'm using it to show you, don't use this in a PowerPoint. All right, that's content. Now let's talk about performance. When you rehearse, be sure you're comfortable moving backward and forward within your PowerPoint, because depending on the type of talk you're giving, people may be asking questions. You may need to go back to a previous slide. Plan for technical difficulties. Things are going to go wrong. They will. So you need to plan for it. If you're doing a recorded speech, do you have enough time to record it multiple times in case something happens? Are you sure that you've got a good microphone? Do you have a good place to record it? If you're giving it in person, get the PowerPoint to the spot multiple ways. Don't just rely on having emailed it to yourself. I've done that and then got to someplace and the internet was down. I always email it to myself, I put it on Dropbox, and I have it on a jump drive. So that way I have it in multiple places. What happens if the PowerPoint doesn't work? Are you still going to be able to give your speech? Are there handouts that you need to give to people if they don't have the PowerPoint? Is there a way to send the PowerPoint later if it has important information so that it can be forwarded to the audience? What are you going to do if your mic goes out? So plan for technical difficulties. And then practice with somebody who is not familiar with the content. Once you have it down where you think it's good, grab in your family, your friends, offer them pizza, give them something to drink, make them listen to you. Get their feedback on both your performance, but also the design of the PowerPoint. Don't read from your slides. Reading the slides word for word is a way to bore your audience to death. It also signals to them you are not familiar with the content. Face the audience. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they turn towards the screen, or they do that halfway where they're actually standing sideways to the audience and sideways to the screen, and they're reading the screen, they're looking at the audience. If you're not looking at your audience, you have disconnected from them and they're going to stop paying attention. It also screams loud and clear that you are not familiar with this material, you did not rehearse it, and that's why you have to be reading the slides. And if it's hard to read or it's hard to follow, don't use it. No matter how good it is, you have to sacrifice it to the main goal of readability. And then the final thing with your performance is to practice. And then practice some more. And when you're done practicing, then rehearse. Yes, there is never enough practice. Plan on 7 to 10 times with the completed PowerPoint. That's your minimum. If you're nervous or the material is hard to follow, like you're giving a lot of complicated material that you're not confident with, then you need to practice even more than that. If you follow these guidelines, then you'll be able to put together a clean, polished PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.